Hello, good day.
Hi.
I see you're quite interested in forest and the lake, and also the animals grazing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you know that there's a peatland quite nearby?
A peatland?
Yeah. What is that?
Well, actually, I'm a tour guide, and if you want to, I could give you a tour. We could explore it together.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Durpynai taip pat gali susidaryti lygumose arba sekliose žemės įdubose, jei dirva nuolat prisotinta vandens. Durpynai labai įvairūs. Raistai, tarpinės pelkės, aukštapelkės, pelkiniai miškai, žemapelkės ir kiti durpynų tipai yra unikalios ekosistemos. Jose tarpsta itin specifinės augalų ir gyvūnų rūšys, sudarančios nuostabias mozaikas ir dinamiškai keičiančios viena kitą per šimtus, net tūkstančius metų.
What is a peatland?
Basically, peatlands are places where peat is formed.
And how it's formed?
For peatland to form, it usually takes place with shallow level of water that remains still and constant. These places are usually located near rivers or lakes. In time, these wet places they become saturated with nutrients, and therefore the oxygen can no longer dissolve in water. Therefore, normal decomposing processes cannot occur anymore, and the dead plant mass just accumulates, forming layers upon layers.
So we are standing on dead plants here?
Yeah, this is called fen. This is the stage where plants still receive nutrients from groundwaters.
How many stages there is?
There are 3 stages in general. This is the first one, and the plants that are most usually common here are sedges, cotton grasses, and reeds.
Kalkingų raistų gruntinėme vandenyje gausu kalcio, todėl čia auga įvairios raktažolių ir orchidėjų rūšys. Antroji pakopa – tarpinė pelkė, didžiąją drėgmės dalį gaunanti iš lietaus vandenų. Joje tarpsta tiek įvairios viksvos, tiek kiminai. Augalams yrant pradeda formuotis durpių sluoksnis. Kai durpių sluoksnis visiškai prisotinamas lietaus vandens, formuojasi trečioji pakopa – aukštapelkė. Jai būdinga pelkynų mozaika, kiminais dengtas paviršius ir kupolo forma, o aukštapelkės centras yra iškilęs keletą metrų.
Is this still a peatland?
Yeah.
But it's dry.
Yeah, I
There's
know.
no water.
It may look dry on the surface, but actually it's quite wet, as you can see. There's still some moisture underneath, and you can even see the peat forming.
Can I?
Yeah,
That's peat.
that's peat. Yeah, that's the same we saw earlier.
Yeah, we can feel it's wet.
Yeah, it stays like this more or less through whole season. Fens and other peatlands are amazing not just because of their species diversity, but also because they accumulate and store carbon.
And how does it work?
Through photosynthesis. Plants absorb carbon dioxide from air and store it in carbon compounds such as carbohydrates and starch.
What's so important? Who cares about?
Well, I cannot explain it to you as good as a good friend of mine. That's why I come here. I will show you a video of her. She will explain it to you.
Peatlands have a high water table and very specific conditions like acidic waters and peat. And in this kind of conditions, plants grow and photosynthesize and bind carbon, but this photosynthesizing biomass or those plant tissues, they don't decompose fully, but accumulate as peat. And so carbon is bound inside the peat from those plant tissues. And in these cases, this peat layer grows, and this carbon is kept inside this peatland as peat. But if there is some human disturbances, peatlands can turn from carbon sinks to carbon sources.
Since natural peatlands absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, they help to reduce the greenhouse effect. We rely on our natural carbon sinks like oceans, forests and peatlands to absorb our CO2 emissions.
Kai raistas ar pelkė yra drėgni, daugybė mikroorganizmų per gyvavimo ciklą sukuria metaną, išskiriamą iš durpyno. Metanas taip pat yra šiltnamio efektą sukeliančios dujos, o jo gyvavimo trukmė atmosferoje yra apie 10 metų. CO2 atmosferoje išsilaiko daug ilgiau. Taigi, jei žiūrėsime į tai ilgalaikėje perspektyvoje, natūralūs durpynai yra tik anglies saugyklos. Jie išskiria mažesnį metano kiekį ir sugeria daug CO2. Tačiau, tūkstantmečius nuo jų susiformavimo, durpynai sugerdavo ir išskirdavo šiltnamio efektą sukeliančias dujas. Atsižvelgiant į tai, CO2 pasisavinimo poveikis gerokai viršija metano emisijas.
We have just arrived at the raised bog. As you can see, it's quite diverse and actually old. In this case, this raised bog is 4,000 years old. There are some even more older in the Northern Europe, could be 9,000 or so. And yes, these are in many cases formed on peatlands I mentioned before, like transitional mires or fens.
How thick is that? Can you tell us a little bit?
Oh, yes. You see, it's actually quite thick, as you can see. It goes all the way in.
Oh, wow. Okay, quite thick.
Yes, the layer has grown so thick actually that the upper plants, they no longer receive nutrients from groundwater. And this is the part where the new species, these sphagnum moss, comes in. It grows like on top of the old plants. It forms layer on layer, and yeah, this is how this bog grows. The central part of the bog, it usually grows quicker because there is much more water. And yeah, this way it forms the dome shape that is characteristic for many raised bogs. And yeah, in time this dome becomes so large that it forms cracks, and these cracks fill up with water, creating lakes and estuaries where watering birds use for resting.
But more peat also means more carbon stored.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it is.
Dėl storo durpių sluoksnio aukštapelkės iš visų geriausiai pasisavina ir saugo anglį.
The peatlands are the biggest carbon sinks globally in the world in comparison with forests and all other vegetation types combined. And peatlands store more carbon, twice as much as carbon as forests. So they're underestimated, but very important.
What use do peatlands have for us?
For example, they act as natural flood barriers.
Yeah.
Oh.
How?
Let me show an experiment. So, right here, you see this is sphagnum mosses that grow in bogs. You see, the thing is that they can absorb large amounts of water, and by doing so, they can absorb, for example, waters when it's excessively raining or when the snows are melting in spring.
Yeah.
And they absorb this water and they hold it. Therefore, these high water level fluctuations are prevented. Basically, prevents floods.
And it can hold a lot of water? This?
Yeah. Let me show you. I suppose it will take some few seconds.
Oh.
See, it's actually like a sponge.
Oh.
Yeah.
All that water goes back in.
Durpynai taip pat pritraukia turistus į regionus. Žmonės leidžia laiką natūraliuose durpynuose ir aplink juos, žygiuoja pėsčiomis, stebi paukščius, žodžiu, linksminasi įvairiais būdais. Tačiau pramoninis durpynų naudojimas gali jiems daryti didelį poveikį.
Quite an area, this whole place.
Toms, can you tell me, this ecosystem seems very useful and beautiful how it is. Why and how did we start to dig them up?
Baltijos jūros regione durpių naudojimas paplito 17 amžiuje, kai išaugo durpių gavyba deginimui. Durpių eksportavimas tapo intensyvesnis 19 amžiaus pabaigoje, o piką pasiekė 20 amžiuje, kai durpių gavyba tapo pramoninė ir pradėjo nešti daug pajamų.
Peat extraction is important for Baltic states. Extracted peat is mainly exported to foreign countries like Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, and other countries. Peat substrates are used in growing media, in gardening, agriculture.
But how is the peat extracted? If it's so wet, doesn't the heavy machinery sink in it?
Well, that's why drainage was introduced. As you can see here, this is a drainage ditch. It was made to lower the water level and drain the peatland.
Oh, so they drain it.
Yeah, and it's actually the drainage and drainage ditches are they have quite a great impact on the peatland, even if the peat is not extracted.
Kasant griovius ir nusausinant durpyną, vandens lygis didžiąją metų dalį būna žemas ir deguonis gali pasiekti gilesnius durpių sluoksnius. Tada atkeliauja durpes oksiduojančios bakterijos ir prasideda durpių irimas. Iki tol sukaupta anglis pamažu virsta CO2, išskiriamu iš durpyno. Bėgant laikui durpynas praranda natūralią augalų ir gyvūnų įvairovę ir apauga kelių rūšių krūmais ir medžiais.
So drained peatlands are very prone to fire because water level in such places is very low due to effect of drainage systems, and upper layers are dry and they catch fire very fast. And when such places catch fire, so they burn for a very long time, and the fire goes into deep layers. So peatlands may burn for months in dry weather. And during fire, huge amounts of carbon dioxide is emitted to the atmosphere.
Aktuali problema yra apleisti durpių laukai, liekantis po durpių malimo. Durpių malimas išpopuliarėjo 20-ajame amžiuje kaip pagrindinis durpių gavybos būdas. Nusausinamas didelis durpyno plotas, o vėliau daugelį metų durpės išgaunamos jas malant. Taip durpynas paverčiamas bevaise žeme ir jei nieko nedaroma, pasibaigus durpių malimui neribotą laiką lieka beveik negyvas, su labai ribota augaline danga.
in all cases, the main techniques that are applied is blocking of ditches, which means that we can build peat dams, or sometimes these are dams of plastic piling or mineral ground or boards, or there are different approaches used in Europe and also in some other regions. The second thing is what we can do is filling the ditches, which means that there's no ditch anymore and no drainage anymore.
Griovių užpylimas reikalauja kelių mėnesių paruošiamųjų darbų. Pirmiausia, reikia atlikti požeminio vandens sluoksnio stebėseną skirtingose durpyno vietose, kad būtų galima sužinoti, koks dabartinis požeminio vandens lygis yra skirtingų metų laiku. Tada prasideda kruopštus modeliavimas, pagal kurį parenkamas geriausias scenarijus, kur statyti užtvankas, kokius griovius užpilti, kokias užtvankas naudoti ir panašiai.
We can restore the hydrology, but the species are not coming back. This problem is well pronounced in fragmented landscapes, especially in West Europe. But in cases when the mire vegetation, the peat-forming vegetation is not re-establishing, or the process is too slow, the plants can be reintroduced by planting or by sowing seeds or by spreading sphagnum fragments, which are methods that are becoming increasingly popular.
In fact, some of agricultural lands are actually in places where there used to be peatlands before.
Now I understand. The peat that is here is also the same that we've seen in the bog, and it's also similar to what my granny was using in her flower bed.
Yes, it actually is.
Durpynų pritaikymas žemės ūkio reikmėms buvo ypač aktualus Vidurio Europoje, tokiose šalyse kaip Lenkija ir Vokietija. Ten raistai buvo vyraujantis durpynų tipas, o dauguma jų buvo paversti intensyvios žemdirbystės plotais.
If we look to the history, there was the foremost need in former times, like a century back, was to fight the hunger. So to make land use more efficient. And one of the ways to make land use more efficient was to drain actually peatlands, because in peatlands not only carbon is stored, but many nutrients are stored. So these areas, once drained, have been quite suitable for agricultural use. So our grandfathers did drain those peatlands, which we now try to become wet again. Now we are in the lucky situation that we are developed, that no one has to starve in Europe, and now we have to really do our job and restore the peatlands.
Tikroji durpynų galia. Tūkstančius metų durpynai atliko neįtikėtinai svarbų klimato reguliavimo vaidmenį ir teikia įvairiapusę naudą ekosistemoms. Mūsų užduotis šiandien yra atkurti kuo daugiau durpynų, kad šiuo gamtos paveldu galėtų pasinaudoti ateities kartos.